Welcome everybody to part 3 of my favorite games from Next Fest June 2024. If you're watching these in order, we're going to be going lightning round as there's so many days to get to. So, I hope you enjoy a lot of upcoming indie games and demos for the next couple of videos, but let's get to our latest selection. We are beginning things with Node Farm. This is a logistics automation game where it's your job to build the best dang farm in the world, as well as conquer land by land using the power of capitalism and farming. In this one, everything is represented, as the title implies, by nodes. Each object has to be connected to one another using the kind of different paths. Each path can take or issue a different order depending upon what you put down. In order to grow a crop, you need to have farmers connected to the crop. In order to actually have the crop grow, you need water going to said crop. Once the crop is finished, it needs to go to the store or to the market in order for you to earn money. As the game goes on, you'll be able to unlock and get access to ever-increasingly levels of complication and automation, as well as logic gates that you can use to just completely automate any and every possible event that can happen to your farm, such as having goods go to specific places when their price is too low, too high, have too much, not enough, and all that other great stuff. Progression comes with buying new plots of land. Each new plot of land will give you a new crop, as well as additional features and upgrades as well. You can attach upgrade nodes that will affect the area around it, providing some kind of benefit. Earn more water, get faster crops, etc, etc. There's also advanced food that you can cook that will require preparation nodes that you have to attach everything to run it through, and you can sell a meal when the time is right to earn a lot more money. But on top of that, there are even boss plots of land that you must provide enough food of the correct type in order to make it happy and conquer that land, which is part of the progression and the goals of this game. So this is one where it can get very meaty and very complicated fast, especially once you start connecting nodes and lands between each other and making use of the more advanced logic gates. If you're someone who likes your farming with a whole lot of heartfelt story and emotion, this is not going to be the game for you. But if you enjoy automation and logistics as much as you enjoy having a green thumb, then you definitely need to check this one out. We now go to Stardust Demon. We play a pair of demons on their own strange planet that is governed by a powerful statue that seems to rule and govern the laws of time, space, and physics. When a piece gets removed and now the entire universe is in danger, it is up to them to solve this case. So our gameplay here in a way reminds me a little bit of Cave Story, in that movement and general play is a little bit on the slower side compared to some of the more faster paced Metroidvanias that we've looked at. You'll explore the world looking for upgrades and new abilities that will enable you to get further in. You can also kind of shoot like a fire breath to deal with enemies, which is also governed by ammo. Now, we didn't get a chance to see too much in terms of, I think, anything that would be different from a mechanical standpoint. You do get this power that lets you kind of swap places with boxes, but I really like the visual design and the art style of this one. If I had any issues, is that the game introduces a section where you have to kind of hit the side of an object and then propel you in the opposite direction, and it was very janky to pull off since they're trying to make use of simulated physics, and you need a very specific angle to avoid these objects. Now, if this comes back in the main game in longer and more frustrating sections, it can be a very annoying pain point. And I am curious to see where this game will go in terms of additional powers, difficulty, challenges, and etc. So if you're looking for another Metroidvania to jump, shoot, and dash to, then you should give this one a try. We now go to Faye Falling. This is an RPG where you play a recently deceased spirit in the afterlife. With no memory as to how you got here, it is up to you to perhaps save the afterlife from an encroaching darkness. And you will be doing that, as always, by solving puzzles, leveling up, and getting into turn-based combat. Enemies will wander around the map, and if you run into them, you will get into combat. Combat is handled with you issuing commands, of course you use spells, actions, items, and whatnot. But to dodge enemy attacks, you must take part in a little mini-game where bullets and other things will come at you from different angles, shapes, and sizes, and you must do your best to avoid them or take hits by them. Now, from what we play of this one, there's definitely going to be a good mix of puzzles along with RPG combat. There are items to find, as well as secrets to uncover. The story page boasts having multiple endings, New Game Plus, as well as a true ending that will probably take some challenge and a lot of understanding of this game to get to. Now, I don't know from our demo just how difficult the combat is really going to get. You do get access to spells, but healing between save points is limited, and some of the checkpoints will not restore your health or recover your status. This is definitely a game where status ailments can mean a whole lot of danger to you, especially poison that persists after fighting. So I enjoy the style of this one, and if you're looking for another RPG with a fascinating story to play, then you should give this one a shot. We now go to Patti Hattu Cosmic Revolt. This is a game that is clearly inspired by the likes of Super Monkey Ball, Marble Madness, and that style. You have been abducted by aliens, and they want to test your ability to, well, roll a giant ball through a variety of obstacle courses. The gameplay here is going to be getting from point A to point B without hitting any of the myriad of obstacles or falling off the edge of the level. You have a jump, a boost, as well as kind of a parachute break that you start the game with, which will enable you to hopefully keep control and get through these levels. The game will grade you, and the more stars you earn, the more levels you'll be able to get access to. As you get further in, the level design becomes more advanced. You'll need to start seeking shortcuts and alternate paths if you want that illustrious S rank that everyone knows and loves. I enjoy this one. If you are a fan of the Super Monkey Ball style of rolling physics and obstacle course design, then definitely give this one a check. And if you haven't played those games yet, this feels like also a really great one to kind of show off that design in full. We now go to Guncho. You are a lone pistol-wielding hero in the Old West, and it's up to you to survive gangs of enemies coming at you from all sides with all variety of guns, explosives, and more. This is a turn-based style game where everybody will move after you move, and your job is to try and position yourself in ways to deal with enemies, either letting them hurt each other or getting into a position where you can shoot them with your revolver. How this works is that the position of the bullets in the revolver correspond to the lanes or angles that you are able to fire from. In order to completely reload your gun, you must empty all the bullets out of it. And as the game goes on, you'll be introduced to more enemy types, more environmental hazards that can get in the way, and you'll need to do your best planning 2, 3, 4, even more steps ahead in order to see this through. As you play, you'll be able to also unlock upgrades as well as kind of special abilities that you can make use of. Now, with that said, the difficulty of Guncho is on the higher side. It's not helped that sometimes it's hard to tell what is a kind of like danger event that's going to happen, such as if explosives hit you or the blast radius of certain things. Since you only have one health point, it is very easy to lose, and I'm not a fan of the game giving you kind of the option to restart with a number of lives, or just restart from the beginning. I think a live system in a game like this is maybe a little bit too stressful for a game along these lines. And there is potential here, but this is certainly going to be on the harder side, as far as a kind of tactical roguelike will go. So if you like your gunplay with a lot of challenge to it, then you should give this demo a shot. We now go to Tower Defense Strategy, or TDS. This is a 3D tower defense meets real-time strategy. Your job is to harvest resources, build towers and workers to help you on a map, and defend your crystal from waves and waves of enemies. Each type of crystal that you can mine has a different purpose. So yellow is kind of your generic money, blue is oftentimes used for support or assistant towers, red is just pure damage. Every building and tower that you can construct can be upgraded, and the upgrades can lead to further upgrades based on which ones you've chosen prior. I like the visual design, the style of this one, but the onboarding is not the best. The tutorial really doesn't prepare you for how you're going to best be able to deal with these waves. You can try and set up walls, but enemies will just break through them, and if you try to set up laning, they'll just break through the wall and just keep going forward. So it right now seems to revolve around just get maximum damage as quickly as you can, because otherwise you're just going to be overwhelmed as you get more numbers and stronger enemies. If they can kind of get that balance right, this could be a very interesting take on both genres. So I would at least give this demo a try if you like what you're hearing, and I hope that we can see some refinements when the game is released. Speaking of, that takes us to our next game, Chimera Custom XG. When aliens invade the Earth, it's up to super soldiers with the power of animal DNA in order to save the day. This is a run and gun shooter where you and up to 3 other friends must explore different areas, fight back against those nasty aliens, and find shinier and shinier loot to do it all. The gameplay here is, again, pure action, as you'll be running, dodging, and shooting your way through a variety of environments. Gear can be found that can be equipped to your character, changing their properties, new weapons, etc. You also choose an animal DNA that acts as your character's special power, such as getting like a dash attack, a shield, and so on. My main issue I have with the game is that the controls are not really set up right. This was a game where I was trying to use the keyboard and mouse, but it wasn't kind of reading it because I had a gamepad plugged in, and when I used the gamepad, some of the commands didn't work right, so it felt more awkward to play than it should be. The general gameplay here is going to be, again, on the basic side. This is going to be one that I think is going to be more for having co-op rather than trying to go through the whole campaign solo. So if you have some friends and you like animals, shooting, and alien busting to do, then give this demo a try. We now go to Tormenture. In this game, we are playing an adventure-style game back in that wacky era of the 80s. It's just a normal game where nothing strange or mysterious happens, except kids who have been playing this game have been mysteriously disappearing. Things are happening in the real world that are responding to the game. Why is there no one around your house and you can't get up from the console? Will you solve the mysteries, or will you end up another missing person? Well, you're going to play this game to figure that one out. Tormenture is again in the style of indie horror where insert favorite nostalgic item is out to get you. In this one, you'll mix between kind of solving and looking for clues in the real world or just around your bedroom, and exploring the world of the game. The game does a really good job of kind of presenting this as an item of the 80s, with you being able to read a hint guide and the manual to get clues to what is going on. Now, the puzzles in this one are going to revolve around you figuring out what is the strange logic of this world, and also going outside the game in order to find specific clues or items that you need. I enjoyed this one. It has a really great aesthetic, and I like kind of the mix between the real world and the kind of 8-bit, or I'm sorry, even less bit of the Atari-like console. Now, it can be a little bit tricky. This is one of those games where if you miss that one room or that one item, your entire path is thrown off and you're going to be in trouble. But the game does a great job of selling kind of the mystique and the aesthetic of the story. Now, if you're hoping for like a full-on survival horror style game with Atari style graphics, this is not that game. The horror is definitely more the vibe and the mood rather than you basically having to fight for your life. Although that could happen later in the game, it's hard to tell the moment how things will go further in. But if you are looking for another indie horror game and are a retro gamer as well, then you should give this demo a try. We now turn to something a little less spooky with Green Again. This is described as a cozy city builder. It is up to you to bring back nature and harmony to the land with your little sproutling like villagers. In this one, your job is to grow your settlement out, keep your people fed, happy, and not freezing to death during the winter time, and reclaim the land from nasty robots. The progression and setup is quite simple. Whatever tiles you have kind of in your colony can be constructed or used. You'll need resources to build more farms. Each food type will have a different price and amount of quote-unquote food that it will provide, as well as what seasons it can be best used for. And the seasons are shown in the bottom left corner of the screen. As you go through, you'll be able to buy or add specific tech upgrades via specific buildings that will give you new functionality, such as being able to trade resources, be able to cultivate or improve the farming quality of the land, and so on. You'll need to reach a certain pop cap and happiness if you want to complete things, as well as finding specific kind of special tech upgrades or tech towers in the world itself. Collect all the resources that you need and you win. Now, the demo showed at least 3 different biomes that you can play on. I don't know if there'll be more in the main game. But this is definitely not being designed as like the hardcore survival city builder, like a Banished or a Frostpunk game. You're given more than enough information in terms of how much food and resources you're using, and everything is kind of set up that as long as you keep things stabilized, it's very hard for you to just outright fail. The progression system does provide useful quality of life features as well as give you more things to do. The only issue that I have with this game from a UI UX perspective is the farming interface. You see, in order to maximize your crops, you need to change what you're planting each season. But you see, as the number of farms grows, the more plots you need to change each and every season. When you have 5 or 6 of them on one screen, it's not that big of a deal. When you have 15 to 20 spread out across the map, it becomes annoying. And there's no way to just kind of set like a blanket, turn all my farms to carrots or to pineapples or etc. And I would really appreciate a kind of mass swap feature in the main game. Other than that, this is like it's going to be a very relaxing, very kind of beginners friendly city builder to play. So if you're looking for some city growing, crop growing for fans young and old, then you should give this one a try. We now switch to Forgotlings. In a strange world, when objects that go missing in our world end up here, they take on anthropomorphic forms and live out their lives doing peace or going to war with each other. You play as one such Forgotling who is out to explore the world and is going to get into some trouble along the way. So right off the bat, I love the art and the aesthetic of this game. That definitely has kind of like a Studio Ghibli kind of look and feel to it. As for our gameplay, this is a mix of action adventure with stealth. From our time in the demo, I don't know what kind of progression there is going to be in the main game, but you'll explore a variety of environments trying to get the drop on different enemies. Most of the enemies are wearing kind of these like battle shells, which makes it very hard to fight them from the front, but does leave them in some cases open to backstabs. If you do get caught, you'll need to hide away from the variety of enemies as well. You do have some basic attacks with your rapier, but this does not feel like a game that's going to be very like combat heavy in terms of different moves and attack styles. Now, you do get to find additional upgrades and kind of resources that can help you, but the demo didn't really show off anything in terms of progression. It was kind of just more of the general gameplay and the look of this world. So I am very curious to see where this game is going to go in the finished version, and definitely one that has a lot of potential in terms of its world, tone, and gameplay. It was only a matter of time after the success of Balatro that we are now in the gambling arc for roguelikes. And our next one is Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers. This time we're moving from poker to blackjack. How this one works is that you're going to be doing blackjack against the house. Anytime that you win with a higher card or a higher hand, you do damage equal to that. If either player busts, then you do the full damage over your hand was. You'll of course start with basic cards out of a 52 deck of cards, but then you'll get stuff like business cards, credit cards, and other kinds of cards that mess with the rules, the cards, and other things. While the concept is good, I'm not a huge fan of this one compared to Balatro, as I feel like a lot of this just feels a little bit more complicated. It's a lot harder to kind of understand the impact cards will have, and it doesn't have, I think, as much of a clarity in terms of how the different cards will lead to different builds, which will lead to different strategies, in the same way that the Jokers and Suits did for Balatro. Still, if you enjoyed Balatro and looking for more gambling, not gambling, roguelike fun, then you should at least give this one a check and see if you can get a winning hand. We now go to Rune Coliseum. This is a turn-based timeline management roguelike. You are trapped in a coliseum, and like all the warriors of old, you're going to fight your way to fame and glory, or death and defeat. So this one does a whole lot with its combat system, and it can be a little bit hard to follow, especially with the footage you're going to be seeing here. So the game itself operates on a very strict timeline system. Actions will take kind of different pips of time to occur, and this is dependent on the gear that you're wearing that's associated to that action. A small one-handed sword can kind of operate with just 1 pip, while a heavy hammer can take up to 3 or more for some of the weapons in order to be used. Different actions can move you forward, push you back, or do the same to your enemy, and if used properly, this can be used to interrupt enemy attacks or push them in a way or get away from them so that they do 0 damage. You also get kind of like a special or super move that builds up over the course of a match. Win a battle, and you'll be able to get different items and unlocks for your character. Better gear will of course come with better stats, as well as better actions that you can attach. And like any good old roguelike, there are going to be different builds based on what kind of armor, gear, and so on you want your character to use. Do you want to be about heavy weapons, parry and reposes, and other things? There is a lot going on in this one, and the onboarding is certainly not the best. It took us, I think, a good 30 to 40 minutes before I could actually start explaining what was going on in this one. But the combat system is definitely going to be the main draw of it. So if you're looking for a very meaty kind of turn-based roguelike, then definitely give this demo a try, and if they can improve the onboarding, this could certainly be a sleeper hit when it is released. We got more in terms of action and slashing, but this time a lot more whimsical with slash quests. When the queen of a kingdom armed with a magic sword gets defeated by monsters, the sword seeks a new wielder to help find the queen and save the day. And they find a sheep herder with only 1 shoe, and the two embark on a quest to save the land. Our gameplay here is that the sword, well, quite almost literally drives everything. your character gets kind of pulled along by the sword, and you'll turn the character in order to initiate swinging and slicing of any and everything along the way. The puzzle logic in this one is that as you defeat enemies, your sword will grow longer, enabling you to reach objects that are further out. You can also light your sword on fire or interact with other elemental effects to give it a short-term property change that can be used to open up paths, find secrets, etc, etc. There's going to be boss fights as well, and you'll be able to go on side quests and find a very eccentric group of people to help you out. This one is by no means going to be aiming to be the super challenging side of sword swinging. And I would say this is a really delightful game if you're looking for another kind of like entry-level game or one you can play with the kids. So if you're looking for some sword swinging displays, but with a little bit more on the cute side rather than the destruction and maiming side, then you should give this one a play. We now switch over to Seafrog. In this is a skateboarding collectible platformer. We play a frog with a AI program built into his kind of hoverboard. Unfortunately, our frog here cannot swim, but he can certainly shred like the best of them. In order to escape from a kind of deserted ship, they must scavenge the nearby ships looking for the resources they need to get to the escape. And to do that, they must skateboard around collecting the various coal and other fuel needed to power the main ship. In this one, you'll kind of use like arcade skateboarding physics, despite the fact that you're on a hoverboard. As you perform tricks, you'll build up your meter, which will enable you to activate a boost that can carry you along walls and ceilings in order to collect a variety of things. You'll need to explore each area looking for enough coal, as well as finding these kinds of like pressure valves in order to turn them off in order to power up the next section of the ship. Get enough MacGuffins, and you'll be able to unlock the next ship, get further in, and of course move on in your skateboarding sea quests. My only issue I have with the game is I'm not a huge fan of the trick system. It kind of requires you to just keep like tapping the button, and it can be a little bit hard to keep performing tricks, especially combos, when you're trying to keep the momentum going. There are trick-based challenges as well, where you'll need to get enough score in order to unlock the key or get additional rewards, and some of it I wasn't quite sure how you're supposed to build up enough score given the time and limitations of the mechanics. But it could also just be me having to figure out more of how the trick-based system will work in the finished game. Very delightful entry, and if you like again like arcade skateboarding and looking for a little bit of collecting to go with it, then definitely give this one a check. We now go to a Time Circuit, a mix of tower defense and city building. You control a species that quite frankly, or quite literally, uses the power of time in order to fight back against invaders and build its civilization. So this is one that's a little bit on the tricky side, and the onboarding, just like some of the earlier games in this video, is definitely on the rougher side. You'll need to construct buildings that allow you to move resources here and there, while collecting and processing them into new resources that will enable you to unlock new buildings, new towers, new resources, etc. You can use whatever time you have left to accelerate or alter buildings, allowing them to do more or change what their utility is. At certain points, you will have to defend your kind of city / collection of buildings from invading forces, as well as going out into kind of the larger space to get new resources, which will enable you to build more, and you get the picture. If they can improve kind of the UI UX of this one, this could be a very engaging kind of city builder or tower defense game, but at the moment I would say this is going to be more on the advanced side for everyone else. So if you like your kind of logistics style games and looking for another very challenging and unique one to play, then give this demo a try and see if it will work for you. Because if it does, then you're going to have a lot of time to enjoy this one. We now go to Lost Castle 2. This is an action roguelike in kind of the beat-em-up form. Now, I didn't get a chance to play the first game, but for our sequel, you are exploring a mysterious land as a treasure hunter, and it's up to you and your friends, or just some online people, to beat monsters, get loot, and grow in power. Now, from what I played of the demo, each weapon type is kind of a class onto itself in a similar vein of that of Monster Hunter. The kind of drill spear I'm using here can be overheated in order to kind of go into a stronger, more secondary form and let out a powerful blast and knock away enemies. As you explore each of the randomly generated areas, you will collect a variety of loot and resources. Weapons and kind of special abilities can be found, and you'll also be able to take back any and all the resources back to your kind of hub area, which you can then use to unlock new classes, new weapons, new quality life features, etc, etc. Combat felt good. It did feel like a little bit clunky, like if you're trying to perform a lot of actions rapidly, as you do have a kind of like this slight delay when you're trying to do like jump and some of the movement. But this one felt really good to play, and I think it will only get better if you have some friends or will play this online and have like the full beat-em-up display. So this is not going to be the only kind of beat-em-up roguelite that we'll be taking a look at for the showcase. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and if you're looking for some fun times to be had with friends while beating up all kinds of monsters along the way, then give this one a play. We're still with action, but this time a lot more graphic, with Lethal Honor Order of the Apocalypse. So this game is designed around the aesthetic of an 80s adult action comic book, so prepare for a lot of guts, gore, violence, and swearing to go with it. You are trying to fight against monsters after awakening from a coma, and you have been granted special powers, which are going to be used to rip and tear through anything that stands in your way. The combat here is definitely fast-paced. I like the use of the different attack tells for not only your own attacks, but enemies as well. You'll get access to different attacks, kind of light, heavy special moves, and the game does have progression in terms of, I believe, unlocking additional weapons, features, and more as you play. We didn't really get a chance to see too much of the kind of meta progression in this one, but I really do like the use of the kind of cel shading comic book art that they went with. And it definitely feeds through everything of this game, including having comic book covers for the boss fights. So if you don't mind kind of a decent amount of blood, guts, and some swearing to go with it, and looking for a very mature action roguelite, then you should check out this demo. We now go to Iron Diamond. This is a Metroidvania where you play this kind of like robotic creature who has been sent to a magical world looking for iron at the behest of its creator. But when they arrive, they are thrust into an adventure that could very well spell out the fate of this planet and the people in it. Our content here is definitely Metroidvania through and through. You will explore the land, completing quests, finding upgrades and MacGuffins, as well as getting into fights with all manner of strange beasts. The gameplay here will revolve around you being able to activate different powers based on your energy meter. That is kind of the crystal you see in the upper left. You can use this to heal, as well as change your property, which will be used to get through certain puzzles, unlock paths, etc, etc. This one, from what we play of it, does feel like it's kind of going for like an amalgamation of different Metroidvania elements and design. And while I don't think it has like the level of aesthetics or style that a lot of people are looking forward to in, let's say, a Silk Song or some of the more advanced Metroidvanias we played, this one felt very solid through and through. The world seems massive, there's going to be a lot of exploration and things to find, and it does a good job of kind of pacing out your upgrades and unlocking new features along the way. So, as with all the other Metroidvanias that we've covered in these showcases, if you are still hungry for more Metroidvania gameplay, then definitely check out this demo. We now go to Soul Drifter. This is a first-person kind of platforming puzzle style game. You have been tasked to explore this land, and you're going to do that by running, jumping, and kind of gliding your way to victory, or falling into water and pits along the way. The kind of rules or tech here is that you have this kind of boost gauge. When you activate, it will allow you to kind of glide and accelerate yourself forward. By hitting certain objects in the air will allow you to either extend it or gain more power back. You'll also be able to wall run and jump off of objects as well, and your job is to get from point A to point B in each one of the variety of environments. The platforming here felt solid. Some of the wall jumping can be a little bit on the janky side, but that is usually the case with games like this. I don't know what else they're going to have in the main game in terms of powers, upgrades, things like that, but I do enjoy the kind of obstacle course-like design. The only nitpick that I have is that there's this tendency to fill the environment with a lot of stuff, and it can sometimes be very hard to understand what the actual path is through the level. And I do wonder if some of it is just having access to additional powers later on, which will let you get shortcuts or get through areas faster, but can be a little bit disorienting at the start. And the checkpointing in this one is good in some cases. Some of the challenges feel like the checkpointing is just right. Some of it could be like a little bit like longer, and again, it really depends on the area that you're in. If you're a platforming fan looking for another game to test your skills at, then check out this demo, and if you enjoy it, then I'm sure you're going to really enjoy the main game when it is released. For our last game of today's video, this is Exographer. This is a puzzle, I guess, Metroidvania style game. You play an explorer who's been sent to a mysterious planet where everyone has disappeared, and you are armed with the powers of a camera and science in order to figure out the mysteries. Our gameplay here is framed around you exploring the land and taking pictures for your kind of digital journal. As you take pictures of various artifacts, clues, relics, and more, they'll fill the journal, which will provide you not only with lore and backstory of the land, but as well as the clues and hints and puzzles that you will need to solve in order to move forward. Now, we didn't see anything in terms of unlocking new movement tech, but you do unlock additional features and puzzle items that you will need to solve the various puzzles in the world, such as trying to figure out patterns of different waves, as well as using elementals or the elemental tables in order to activate certain doors. The puzzle logic in this one certainly goes a lot of places. You'll have to make use of your camera, as well as being able to figure out the basic logic and reasoning of the world if you want to solve the different puzzles. One of them I got hopelessly stuck on in terms of trying to figure out which patterns of waves represent which point. So this one can get very meaty. I like kind of using the journal as the exposition slash puzzle solving. Reminds me a little bit of something like Return the Obra Dinn and some of the other kind of deductive reasoning games we've played as of late. This one, again, like if you're going into this expecting full-on puzzle or full-on platforming, I think you're going to be disappointed. But if you're looking for a really solid kind of platforming meets puzzle style game with an equal mix of both, then you should give this demo a check, and if it works for you, then I think you're going to love the finished game as well. And with that, we are done with another part, but the next Fest coverage is not done yet. Not only do I have even more days to cover, but I have demos after the event that I still need to record footage of. So let me know where some of your favorites are down below. You'll find links to everything as well. And be sure to tune in for more parts coming real soon. So with that said, everyone, have a great night, and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.